father died 3.5 years ago, and my mother's in an assisted living home, and the bulk of her income comes from his ERS check. He was a state employee for 34 years. My brother and I depend on it. 70% of her funds to keep her in that assisted living facility is ERS funds. And so I say that at the outset to let you know that I will do nothing that would harm this fund because my mother is absolutely dependent on that income. And so I wanted to say that as full disclosure in this era of transparency, but also let you know that my desire is to do nothing that would harm the ERS fund. Let me also say I'm very proud of Senate Bill 402 because it's a bipartisan effort. I had the number 3 signer as the chairman of the Democratic caucus in the Senate and an 8-year veteran of the Retirement Committee. And I've depended on Senator Stoner for his advice and support, as well as other Democrats on the bill. Very much a bipartisan support. Have the majority leader from the Republican side as a signer. And so I'm very pleased that we were able to pass it out of the Senate with a 50-4 bipartisan vote, which I think is a strong support for the bill and that it was well written. Let me say some other things. I'll try not to be too long, Mr. Chairman, but there are points I'd like to make regarding the bill. And let me give you some facts on where we are with this bill. I understand 49 states use alternative investments in their retirement fund. We're the only state in the country that does not use alternative investments for a large fund. We use it in the firefighters fund, but I'm talking about large pension funds. We're the only state. All 49 other states use alternative investments. Over 200 foundations from universities, from Harvard to Yale to Princeton to University of Virginia, Duke. I own Georgia Tech, University of Georgia, and even Valdosta State, where I'm an alum. They recently voted to put in alternative investments in their fund. Everyone is using this. Private sector uses alternative investments in their pension funds. Everybody except Georgia. So, having said that, some other points I want to make relative to this bill is diversification of our assets. It's exactly what this does for us. By having a variety of investments in alternative investments, that gives the ERS professionals yet another tool for diversification of their assets. Let me also make very clear, TRS, the Teacher Retirement System, is exempt. It's clearly put in the bill throughout, making it abundantly clear TRS is not a part of this bill. I also want to say, and Jim, I'm sure the new permanent director, which I'm very proud of, will probably hit this point, but let me tell you that the investment committee for ERS, for the Employee Retirement System, their investment committee voted unanimously for this. The Board of Trustees voted unanimously to adopt this legislation. Now, having said that, simply let me tell you what the bill does, and it's very simple. It allows up to 5% of the ERS funds to be invested in alternative investments. 5% is the cap. It's 1% a year, up to 5%. So it's going to take 5 years to get to the full 5% if they decide to use this vehicle. And let me make this point. This is optional for the ERS professionals. They have the option of whether they want to invest in these funds or not. But they will be capped at 1% a year and a total over 5 years of 5%. And that's a hard 5% cap in the legislation. Now, let me tell you, there's some protections in the bill, too. You have to have at least $100 million in assets, and there has to be 4 other partners. We will not be a lender of last resort. There are other protections like a code of ethics in the bill. And again, I've already made the point, the ERS professionals who have done a very, very good job investing these funds, they will make all the decisions relative to whether and where they put funds if they so choose to use alternative investments. Let me give you some statistics that are sort of interesting to me, to say the least. You realize the average public pension fund has 13% of their assets in alternative investments. 13% is the average for all the public pension funds across this country. We're talking about going to 5%. Georgia Tech, as an example, has 59% of their funds in alternative investments, which I think is high, but their return versus ERS return in the last 10 years, and you know the last 10 years have been the worst 10 years for stocks probably in the history of the stock market. The last 10 years have not been that good, but ERS is still managed a 5.1% return over 5 years, which is good, but Tech's at 8.2. Just telling you alternative investments and what they can do if they are properly utilized. Mr. Chairman, I think that's sort of a quick overview of the bill. I didn't want to get in too much detail. I know that Jim might want to speak to some points. I don't know if you want Jim to speak first and then take questions for both of us, but I'm willing to take questions at any time relative to this bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I start, I just want to point out a couple of our board members here in attendance today. The state auditor, Mr. Hinton, is here. Our board chairman, Harold Reheis, is here, and also Lannis Barrett as well. So I just wanted to recognize them. From our perspective, you know, the topic of alternative investments has kind of been bubbling up for a little while now. Of course, it was first introduced formally in the legislature back in 2006, but more recently, we know that it was a topic during the gubernatorial campaign, and we started seeing multiple references in the media in the summer. I'm sorry. We started seeing multiple references in the media during the summer and the fall. So the board felt that it would be wise for ERS to sort of get out in front of that issue a little bit. The worst thing that would have happened for us would have been for a bill to be introduced that was something that we weren't involved in crafting. The language in the bill before you, which is very similar to what was introduced in 2006, 2007, was crafted with enormous input from our investment professionals in the Division of Investment Services. So they've reviewed it. They're satisfied that from their standpoint it allows them to do their jobs while also containing the provisions that they think were necessary to protect the fund from, you know, outside influence and those kinds of things. It is important to us that, you know, ultimately the decisions be left to them. They are, you know, our professionals, and we trust their judgment in that respect. The language was reviewed, as the Senator said, by our investment committee and later by our full board of trustees, and unanimously voted to support the language. So you have the full support of our board as well as the Division of Investment Services behind the language contained in this bill. In the end, again, as the Senator pointed out, we're not talking about jumping in with both feet here. We're talking about doing something that will allow for, you know, a little bit more opportunity for the investment folks to make decisions in what they feel is the best interest of the fund. We're not trying to overwhelm with going in and jumping in with both feet, as I said. But we do think that it would be appropriate for them to have that ability to get into this set of assets and use that as a tool for the fund.
All right. Y'all just remain seated there, and we'll have the other folks that can come up over the microphone on the side of here and speak. If anybody else didn't sign up to come in since we started right the bill. Yes, ma'am. Pass it over there.
Apologize, I missed that when I came in.
Anyone else? All right, that's all. All right, Mr. Bill Thompson, we'll have you come over, please.
This is where you want me, Mr. Chairman?
Sir, I think it's
Okay. Thank you, sir. I'd like to address a committee substitute that I understand will be presented and talk in terms of that.
We don't have to be a substitute for us, so we're talking about how simple the board would be.
Okay, I'll address some of our concerns with that. I'm president of the Georgia State Retirees Association, which is made up of people who are members of any of the retirement systems that are state-funded systems. Okay, we have members that from all the state retirement systems in our organization. Our membership is concerned about the risk level that this bill would put or would add to the investments of, let's be honest, their money. The money that's in ERS is put in either by the member or the state or a state subsidy on behalf of the members. Once the money is in the fund, it is all there on behalf of the members. There was an eloquent statement made earlier about who all this bill was run by. It was run by the investment committee. It was run by the investment division, helped generate it. I understand it's been run by the chamber. It's been run by the governor's people. It's been run by the Senate committee. It's been run by the House committee. It has not been run by the members of the retirement system. When all this was done, ERS had the ability to post on its website what it was proposing to do to the members to change investments. That has not been done. Members were not advised. One of our concerns is there's no control, as I understand it from talking to investment people. Once your money goes into a pool and the pool moves to invest it, at that point you have lost your individual ability to control what the pool does with the money. If you have four other investors in a pool, you take a vote. What the pool wants to do as a majority is what is done with the money. You then have lost your ability to direct specifically where the pool money would go. It could go to a hedge fund, it could go to derivatives, it could go anywhere. Now, very specifically, we're not opposing doing some alternative investments. What we are interested in is removing some of the ones for the time being that are more risky. Derivatives are extremely risky. Some of the biggest institutions, financial institutions in this country, sank in the last 3 years because of derivatives. Hedge funds, mezzanine funds are all extremely risky funds. There are all those things in this bill which say we can make investments, debt investments, that are unsecured. There's no collateral behind the investment. It is entirely a risk investment. That is a major concern of our membership. And yes, we polled our membership, and we have a little over 5,000 members. We got over 1,000 responses, and to a T, you know, we had nobody that said, let's go with alternative investments. The other concern is we've heard it stated that there is concern about the people who put the bill out that state employees put less into ERS than the state employees who are in TRS, and there are a lot of state employees in TRS. Everybody who's in the Board of Regents is in TRS or the optional retirement plan. So there are state employees in both systems. And the state employees in the TRS put in 5%. There's a difference. Well, there is a real difference. 30 years ago, and I'll bring it all relevant, Mr. Chairman. Okay. All right. But if you're not going to read national history, that means the Civil Rights Bill 50 years ago is old history and it's no longer relevant. Or the suffrage bills of 100 years ago are no longer relevant because it's old history. Or the Constitution of this country is no longer relevant because it's 200 years old. Things are relevant. What happened in the past is why we are sometimes today where we are. Things are relevant. Again, back to the point, we're not opposed to going into these in the future. If, ERS and the investment division Say you do 5 years without the riskiest investments in there. And ERS, which has no expertise now in these areas, they have great expertise in bonds, they have great expertise in securities. They don't have expertise yet, to my knowledge, in derivatives and hedge funds. You know, give them time to gain some expertise in these areas. You know, come back later and say, yes, they've got the expertise, they've done the research. These are the ones out of those that they say, yes, we can make money in safely. But let's don't open the door. When I was a younger man in high school, I was a lifeguard at a pool in the country. And we had a 7-year-old boy come in one day and walked right out of the shower and changing room, walked right out and jumped in the 8-foot deep section by the diving board. We got him out. He went straight to the bottom. We had to go down, get him out, bring him up. And we said, why did you jump in the deep end if you didn't know how to swim? He said, well, I've never been in a pool before. I didn't know any better. Well, same thing is relative to some of these investments. You know, we shouldn't jump in yet because we haven't been there before. It'd be pertinent to be cautious rather than projective and just jump. Yes, ma'am. All right. That's one part. We have concerns with those particular investments. Another part of the bill we have a concern with is, while the bill does say ERS will come and report to the governor, the ERS will come and report to the Senate committee, ERS will report to the House committee. There's nothing that says ERS would have to report to the membership. Again, whose money they're investing. You know, we perceive that it's imperative that ERS not have the option of reporting to the membership, that it be statutory, that if they're going to be required to report to the legislative and executive branch, they also be required to report to the membership. That seems to be a basic right that the members should have. And it's simple. Post it on a website. And that's all you have to do. And that'd be simple to amend the bill to put that in. Also, it was addressed that there's a code of ethics. Well, the code of ethics that's in it is very abbreviated. The law department has a very detailed code of ethics that they use in other bills that are very restrictive about what people can and can't do. We would ask that the bill be amended to include the Legislative Legal Services Code of Ethics that they have put out and that they would put in a bill. We think that is a minimum requirement as far as the Code of Ethics when you're talking about investing $700 to $1 million of retiree money. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Could you just, it's my understanding that the mezzanine funds you addressed here that you are concerned about, those are funds that will be converted, generally speaking, those are funds that are converted to ownership interest in in corporations and things. It's my understanding on that. Is that your understanding on that too?
My say is mezzanine funds work this way. They're sort of like a second mortgage. An investor, a company wants to borrow money. It goes in and say it has $800 million. It then goes to an entity like this, and that's why they become mezzanine funds. They're layered on top of what they need to borrow. They go to a lender. They get $800 million from the lender. The retirement system would then put $200 million to them. They need a billion in total. So you would have $200 million of ERS funds, $800. The problem becomes when the value of the asset, if there's a related asset, begins to drop. Or if the original borrower says, I no longer can make my payments on the loan, right? Then the lender comes back and says to the second mortgagee, okay, you have the option. You can pick up the payments that they can't make, and you can now start making payments. Or we're going to foreclose, and if the value of the asset is only $800 million, we're going to get our $800 million, and you as effectively a second mortgagee are going to get zero.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're the risk taker. You are the biggest risk taker in mezzanine funds.
Let me point out, though, on the sheet we've got here, I think these, if you go down, and Jim, you can help me out with this, if you go down the risk of the hierarchy of people that are secured in these loans, if I'm not mistaken, mezzanine before common stockholders, we've got most of our money probably common stock now.
That is correct.
If you go down the list of people that are secure, and all these know, a lot of these alternative investments are secured above common stock. There's probably, how much of our funds are invested in common stock now?
About 70%.
So we've got 70% of our funds now in common stock that are the least secure of anything else out here. Mezzanine funds and all these other investments are one level above that if something happens to each other.
It depends on the type of investment and the way it's structured, Mr. Chairman.
Bank loans, secured loans, unsecured loans, mezzanine funds, alternative investments, preferred stock, and then common stock, I believe is a hierarchy of how these things come back. So our investments, if the alternative investment was allowed to be above that, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Well, that was kind of my. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. That's kind of what we're investing in stock and we're in bonds right now. We have an interest rate that's very, very low right now, and as the interest rate rises, and which I expect it to rise, and I think that's the expectation in broader markets.
Yes, sir.
What we're going to have is we're going to have a discount. We're going to lose value in the bonds, or the current market value is going to. It's just math of how they'll be discounted, and we're going to lose value there. And like the chairman was saying, I think these are called alternative investments, and I think they have some perception of being higher risk, but in actuality, they could be like mezzanine funds and some of these other items on here. They're actually, if there was a bankruptcy, a Chapter 7 bankruptcy of the underlying corporation, these would be higher in priority than the investments we have now as far as payout.
Yes,
in
sir.
a Chapter 7 situation.
Yes, sir. Well, the bonds are relative. If you bought bonds years ago and they are paying 7%, then the value of those bonds is greater. So that's an asset that's grown more. If you bought bonds recently and the yield is very low, agreed. In the future, if it goes up, they would go down. But I would assume in today's market, when you're buying bonds, you're buying short-term bonds and not long-term bonds at the prevailing interest rate.
I've got two more questions. I'm not thinking, my microphone working at all. Can y'all hear me?
No.
Well, I don't know what's going on here. Anybody know? All right, go here. I'll just speak loud. Number 26.
Me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe there's a question in here, and I'm not sure who I'm referring it to, but as far as the mezzanine debt, why would someone typically issue mezzanine debt? Is it because they've maxed out on their traditional debt? Therefore, this alternative investment, even though it is a higher priority in the case of like a bankruptcy, it would be issued by a company that's probably a little more risky. That's why you get a higher rate of return, is because there is additional risk involved. So I guess my question is, why would someone issue mezzanine debt, and because they're issuing it, is it slightly more risky than general debt?
Jim, you want to answer that?
That's yours.
I guess I'm asking those that want to do it.
The only thing that I can say to that is we know that there are different classifications of debt, right? Different grades, AAA, AA, single A, junk status, those kinds of things. And you are correct in saying that the level of possible return is inversely proportional to the rating. So the lower the rating, the higher the potential return. Having said that, this is, again, we're talking about one potential asset class out of a number of different asset classes in a very small portion of an overall portfolio. So you look for different risk points in order to differentiate and try to balance out the return that you're going to get. The Division of Investment Services uses a term, that risk-adjusted return. That's what really they're looking to maximize. And so this would be kind of one point on a continuum of risk that they look at.
Could I follow that up, sir?
Yes, sir.
And overall, I think I'm okay getting close with the alternative investments, but I look at I do have some concerns with, I guess, the derivatives, the mezzanine debt, and then the unsecured debt, and I look at it in our total ability to maximize returns. And where do we fall in comparison to those? I mean, we're one of the only states, I guess the only state that does not have the alternative investments. Where do we fall not using those? I mean, are we in the top 10? Are we, as far as returns, are we in the top 20? Are we in the bottom 5? Where are we?
We're pretty close to the median over the long term nationally.
Okay. When you say
Median
long,
public fund return, we would be right about there.
okay, let me clarify that. 5 and 10 years. Do you know where we are as far as 5 and 10 years?
Again, generally, if you look at 10-year, the 10-year time frame, we're actually a little bit below the median. There are a lot of factors in play there. At the time, we were very constricted as to what we could do, even in the general bond and equity portfolio. At one time, we were constricted to just 50% of the portfolio being in equities at all. That has since been relaxed to some degree, and they've been able to take advantage of that to get us sort of back to this median level.
Okay.
So what I'm hearing is we made some changes a few years ago that helped us even in the equity market, because we were more into, I guess, treasury notes, the more secure. And as we've seen that relaxation, we've seen a increase in returns even from that change allowed us to go into more equities. Is this mic working at all here? Good. Number 16.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Tomlinson, I heard you had concerns, and I've been receiving emails, and an email may say, I don't like mezzanine funds, or I don't like derivative instruments. And if you had a copy of the bill, I'd like to go down the list, and you tell me what you want in and out off this list. It would just help me, because I don't know some of the differences in the, just for clarification. On Section 3, it's got leverage on line 39. So your group would want mezzanine funds to be removed,
Yes, ma'am.
and workout funds could stay,
Yes, ma'am.
and debt funds would be removed,
Yes, ma'am.
and venture capital funds would go or stay,
That would stay.
and merchant banking funds,
It would stay. Yes, ma'am.
and funds of secondary funds. That would stay or go?
That would stay as funds of funds and secondary funds. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so on that next list further down on line like 61, 62, which of those would go or stay? Just to
Yes,
help
ma'am.
me out
Okay. Again,
in your wish list.
in our wish list, mezzanine debt instruments would be removed.
Okay.
You would add a new item, equity investments, line 64 and 65, where it says distressed debt and equity instrument investments, including without limitation cases in which the investor may take control of the issue. That line would be changed to read equity investments. Okay.
So you would remove the distressed debt.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Down on the next line, item 11, other debt instruments, whether secured, unsecured, senior or subordinated, recourse and non-recourse, convertible or otherwise, would be deleted. You would have a new line which would say other secured debt.
Okay.
All right. And then in item 16, XV1, you would delete an equity derivative.
Yep.
And those are the investment items. There's one other change we would ask to be made. If you go over to section paragraph F, item 5, we would insert in that one and where it says talking about giving information to the governor and to the committees, we would add language which would read, and shall post such information on the retirement system's website.
And where was that again? I didn't follow. What
That would
line?
be And I'll
Do you have a line numbered?
have to, excuse me. Yeah. 176, yeah. Right, F-176.
Yeah, I just was
83.
curious about that list.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Now I'd like to know if they want to answer at some point.
We will. We'll get their answers just a minute. Yeah, we're going to get their answers just a moment, ma'am. All right, Ms. Blackman, do you have anything to add or detract from what's been said? If it's the same story.
It's basically the same story. Just some. One of my primary concerns is whether or not the retirement board, with all due respect, has the expertise to review these investments.
And can you tell us who you represent or who you're with?
I'm here on my own, but I'm part of the Georgia State Retirees Association.
Okay.
I am a member, but I am a retiree.
Okay.
I work for the banking department, and I know the difficulties we faced in trying to evaluate some investments that some of our bankers wanted to put money into. And that is certainly one of my concerns. And if it gets outsourced, to make sure that there's an independent evaluation that's made of these investments, and to make sure that the independent evaluation is evaluated so that we know what we're getting into, because some of these instruments are very complex, very, very complex.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Drummond. Yes, sir. Who are you with, sir?
I'm with Georgia County Wealth.
Okay, come on over, sir. Have a different speaker here.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for the privilege of being here, and thank you for your concern about the retirement system. It's an important component of our ability to recruit and retain folks who work in human services. My name is Wayne Drummond. I work with the Georgia County Welfare Association. We basically have 1,100 people across the state who work in human services. Our membership has always been concerned that investment strategies should be driven by the quality of the decision and applied equitably to all state retirement systems. I understand we're not looking at that presently. We do feel that the efforts to increase transparency of investment of funds, to strengthen the ethics, and to eliminate some of the more risky investments would help to ameliorate some of the concerns we've had, and we appreciate your consideration.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Mr. Tom Gill with the GMA. Did I pronounce that right, Tom?
Close enough, Mr. Chairman.
GEHL.
Close enough, Mr. Chairman. Tom Gale with the Georgia Municipal Association. GMA also has a pension fund that we run with assets a little over $1 billion. We ran this by our board and our pension fund manager, and they welcome the flexibility that's offered in this bill and commend Senator Golden for bringing this forward, but we are in support of the legislation.
Okay, do y'all have any of these concerns that have been brought up, or do y'all have, your board have any concerns about the investments or the areas you feel like that the expertise is there to take care of what you're doing?
Well, for those of you who know some of your city officials, particularly some of the city managers, mayors who are tasked with running their cities, to keeping these local governments afloat, they're and they probably wouldn't take this as a slight but a compliment. They're very tight with their money, and those are the same people that are on our board of our retirement system. And this is flexibility, and it gives them the ability to decide what is right at what particular time in the future for our investments. So that flexibility is something that they welcome, but they're going to be making those decisions based on due diligence, thorough analysis, et cetera. So our folks are entirely comfortable with all of the list of suggestions that are in this bill for possible investments.
Okay. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Megan Middleton, City of Atlanta.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for allowing me to address you all. The City of Atlanta does support Senate Bill 402, and we have supported similar legislation over the past 5 years to the point that it's actually been a part of our city legislative package, and it is again this year. Our board just wants the ability to have more tools in the toolbox. Our board is elected by employees, and I believe retirees also elect those board members. When the fund managers are selected for running our pension boards, they are done by the RFP process. So it's a very open process. The board does not do this alone. They have to put out an RFP. The proposals are then made public at a certain point. So it's a very open process. We have not heard any concerns from any employees or retirees about this bill. Has not come through as a concern through the City Council. It passed the City Council unanimously to be put into our legislative package. So we do support this, and would just like to have the opportunities. I understand that some boards may not want this, but that is their choice. We would just like to keep the choices open for our board to be able to use this if that's what they determine is the best for the employees and the retirees.
Okay. Representative Buckner, I'm sorry. Did I miss your light while ago with the other speaker?
No.
Okay. All right.
I wanted to ask Ms. Middleton a question.
Oh, okay. All right, you're up.
And I appreciate Atlanta wanting to have this. I was surprised yesterday when I learned that this affected you, and I was trying to figure out in the bill where it includes all the cities and how it includes you, and I'm still not clear on that. Is there a way for you to? Okay, thank you. I got my question from Mr. Gale. Line 80.
Any other questions for Ms. Middleton?
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate you being here and your comments. All right. Mr. Freeman, you got something you'd like to add to this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe what I have to say has been covered. Appreciate your consideration of the committee and your willingness to work with us in the future.
All right. All right, we're back to the bill here. Do we have questions now for, well, we got number 16 again. What happened, number 16?
Well, I have gotten quite a few emails about this, and I know nothing about it, so I've been having to study. So I do have quite a few questions that I need answered. First of all, what other retirement groups might be included other than the cities that I haven't heard from that are in that code section? And do you know? I mean, I'm assuming this includes ERS, the judges, the legislators, obviously cities, counties.
Right. Basically, it's anybody who meets that definition of large retirement system.
And that definition is? I'm not a lawyer, so I don't have a code book.
What's the page in the code? Or you?
I can pull it for you.
You need a.
Just a general definition will do for me.
Quite long.
It's okay. Just
Right.
like how many members?
Where's our attorney over here is getting it too.
Okay. And
David, you probably got that up already, haven't you?
That's part of it. There's a combination of the size of the fund.
Mm-hmm.
For example, any fund over, I believe, $200 million in assets would fall in that category.
Mm-hmm.
But there are exceptions below that level that have to do with the funding of the system. So if it's funded above a certain minimum level, it could also fall within that definition. But again, I don't know the specifics.
It would include ERS, the legislative retirement system, judicial retirement system, probably the PSERS retirement system on our side, because these are the major ones. The others are basically, what's the word I want right here? They're supplemental retirement funds. Okay. David, ready?
It's a long definition. It probably would be fairly meaningless if I just read it. I'm not sure exactly how they part this as it goes on and on. But basically, in this bill, of course, we included the TRS.
Right.
Large retirement system. But it would include large retirement system. The city of Atlanta is specific. It expressly includes the cities and the counties, and they're providing retirement funds. And Cobb County would be in it. I'm
Would
not.
that be in it with their local retirement, their schools?
Well, that,
Their schools, their local?
I don't have any personal knowledge of the size of those funds.
Gwinnett County contacted me in support of it. So
I'm saying would that their teacher retirement?
well, I don't know about the teachers, I'm talking about the
No, I'm
county.
talking about the school system, that would be like.
Public schools? PSCRS would be
Okay.
included. The public school plan would be included in
Public
this.
school plan would be included.
Yes.
So local public schools, but not TRS, correct? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, local public school, the plan I'm talking about is the public schools retirement system that we administer for the custodians and the bus drivers and the cafeteria workers.
Right.
PSCRS, the ones we
Okay.
administer, right.
That's good.
The local school system, I guess, if they have a teacher plan that's large enough, would be included. It depends on how much that's.
Okay.
All right.
That'll do for now. You can
Okay, okay.
circle back.
I don't know who was next. Number 27, I think you were next.
That was my question.
Okay.
The answer. I was going to see if Gwinnett would be.
All right. Number 26.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On line 64 and 65, the distressed debt and equity instruments that, including without limitation, cases in which the investor may take control of the issuer, does that mean we could potentially get in the business of owning businesses? Is that what that's saying?
We wouldn't be direct owners. I guess this is probably an appropriate time for me to clarify something here. There have been concerns raised about our level of expertise in the alternative investment space, and that it's a perfectly legitimate concern. We don't currently invest in this. We haven't had the need to build an expertise level. But I want to assure the committee that it's not the intention of DIS to invest directly in these assets. To respond to a question that I received a few weeks ago, we're not going to be owning a hockey team or anything like that. The intention is to invest in these private placement pools that are managed by external managers, not dissimilar to the situation where we might contract with an external equity manager to do small cap value or large cap equity or anything like that. So we would essentially contract with these management firms to manage these assets for us.
Much as mutual funds are done, pooled together. Is that a similar analogy there?
Well, in a way, yeah. The contractual arrangements are significantly different from that. But yeah,
but just a pool.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
So just to make sure, I'm trying to understand here. So when we contract with these outside investment entities, will they direct where this money is going, or will we direct which pool we will participate in? So there's a pool here that's mezzanine debt, a pool for derivatives, and we'll participate in that pool, or we'll say, here goes $1 million invested?
The pools are not divided up by asset class in that manner. The asset list is in place so that the pool can be managed by the manager in the way that it believes would produce the most value for the investors in the pool. These are different instruments that may be used in the management of the pool.
So who will be responsible for making sure that no class exceeds the 20%? That will be in the arrangement that we have with the investment entity?
Something like that. We're extremely these pools are very big.
Yeah.
Hundreds of millions of dollars. For us, in any given year, we're talking about a maximum of $140 million or so, given the current size of our fund, that we would be able to invest in any particular year, and all of that would not be invested in a single pool. We would spread that out amongst a number of pools. So for us to even come close to approaching the 20% limit is incredibly unlikely, given the way this is going to work.
Bear with me, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry. So if we have, I just want to make sure I understand this. We have, is it saying on line 93 that no alternative investment shall exceed 20%? Well, I guess that's not by class. We can still put all of it into any class we want, right?
But again, we wouldn't be making that decision directly.
The investment.
We would say, okay, here, Apollo or Blackstone or whoever, here's a commitment for a certain amount of funding into this pool that you're putting together, and we will have some information about what the intent of the pool is, right? So we'll be able to evaluate whether we feel that's an appropriate set of parameters that they're proposing for that pool. But at the end of the day, they are going to make decisions as time goes by as to how that pool is managed.
Based on their expertise. Okay.
Correct.
Gotcha.
All right. Good. Number 20.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the two gentlemen in front here, I've got several questions. I want to preface my remarks by stating that I've been on the committee 8 years, and that one of the probably the most knowledgeable people I ever knew as far as retirement told me when I first got here, says you got to be careful with other people's money. Says you can do this on your own. You can invest money on your own, but you got to be careful with other folks' money. And so I've kind of taken that to heart. I've got a couple of questions I'd like to ask. The question's already been asked about where we rank, and you said about in the middle. But can you give me some idea of those that are below us, how heavily they are invested in these types of funds?
I cannot.
Could not. Okay. If we've got 49 others that are doing it, and half of them are below us and half of them are above us, then why do we need to do this now? My mother always told me just because somebody else did it doesn't mean that you needed to do it. So why do we need to do this now?
I would suggest to you that what we're doing is we're leaving potential on the table. I think the fact that we are at the median, given the restrictions that we have faced in the past, is a complete credit to the investment professionals who work for us, and that provided with additional ability and additional tools that they could perform even better.
I remember a couple of years ago that there was a company that came out that everybody thought that they were just the hot stuff. They were a little company called Enron, and everybody invested in that, and next thing you knew, everybody lost their shirt.
I think that was mostly stocks.
Yeah, I would point out that's a regular stock.
Yeah, but that was a big deal, though.
There was a big deal.
A couple other questions. How do we keep political influence out of this and out of these investments? In other words, we have somebody high up in government who has a friend that says this is a good investment. The next thing you know, they're trying to bring pressure toward the retirement board to invest in this particular thing. Do we have anything in the bill that keeps that from happening?
There are several provisions. Number one was the provision that was alluded to earlier about us being able to invest no more than 20% of the total of a particular pool, or any investment really. We would not be able to provide more than 20%. So that means that you have to find somebody else or a number of other people to fund the remaining 80%. Also in the bill is the fact that there needs to be at least 4 other investors. So again, you're having to find other investors to make up that 80%, and it's got to be spread out across a number of different investors. And finally, those investors need to invest at the same terms as us. So there was a concern when the bill was being crafted that the ERS might get pulled into sort of a lender of last resort kind of a situation. But if you can find other investors that are willing to invest in the project, you're only going to be able to do that if the project has merit to begin with.
Okay. Can I continue on one or two more, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, don't be all day.
Well, this is other folks' money.
We got other people with questions.
Then I'll finish up with this question here. There have been some suggestions as to some things that could be deleted. I'm speaking to the author now. The derivatives, the hedge funds, the mezzanine, and also a report to the membership. Would you have any problem if we amended the bill to take those 3 things out and put in the report to the membership?
Well, Representative, I'm going to answer and ask Jim to follow up on the answer.
Okay.
But the reality is, and he knows better than I do, but these funds, if you start restricting, you're going to limit what funds from pools we can go into. So I think you kick out a lot of potential folks that we could invest with if you do that. I mean, I think you really, really potentially destroy the bill if you start picking and choosing on investments. But let me have Jim follow up on that because he can answer it from the investment pro side.
All right.
What we've been told by the investment folks is that in this space, there's a very clear delineation between the most accomplished, the best fund managers, and the rest. So they want to invest with what you would call the top quartile, let's say, of all the managers that play in this space. if we were to start creating lists that would restrict them from, investing in certain of these investments, it definitely would limit our ability to do business with some of those folks. They would not. They have plenty of other people that are interested in working with them, and they don't need us in the same way. So that would close that avenue to us, is what their feeling is.
But if you take out the riskiest, wouldn't the fund be better then?
Again, not necessarily. I mean, if they believe that from a risk-reward standpoint that the potential return, the potential reward, is in excess of what the level of risk is for that particular investment, then my suggestion would be no, we would not be better off because we would be likely to reap that reward.
Okay. Senator, one other question, and I like to have a little assurances on stuff like this. We pass this bill out like it is, and let's say we make one change to it and it goes back to the Senate. Can we have your assurance that there won't be anything else added to the bill?
You're asking me to predict what the Senate's going to do?
Well, it's your bill, and I don't want something to come back to us wanting to agree or disagree that the bill has been changed a lot from what if this committee in the House passes it. Let's say that we add that the report to the membership. That's the only thing we change about it, but that has to get an agree, disagree. It goes back to the Senate, and some of your colleagues decide, well, they changed it there, let's change it somewhere else. Can we have your assurance that that won't get done?
The only thing I can assure you, I will try to direct it in that way. But I can't. Don't ask me to predict what the state Senate's going to do anymore, and I don't want to predict what the House is going to do. But I will try my dead level best. If you make a change, that I hold it where it is.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry
That's all I can do.
long.
Is just speak for myself.
Number 17.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator, point out to me where the ethics portion is in your bill.
Kelly, where's the code of ethics in the bill? Do you know specifically?
You mean you don't know?
Well, it's in the bill, but I need to find which page. It's at the end of section 3 on line 186. It's the last page, page 6.
So they will adopt. It's not really spelled out what kind of code of ethics will be adopted there. Okay. Thank you.
I would point out that they have done similar work in terms of the other investments, the other work that they do. They already have policies and ethics procedures that are in place now. So we're talking about something that would be added on to that.
Mr. Chairman, may I follow
Yes, sir.
up?
Please continue.
Would you be amenable to the committee coming up with a code of ethics to be included in this?
We certainly would look at it. I don't have a problem with, if it's something that the ERS is comfortable with as far as, us trying to tell investment folks how to do it. It just depends on where you go with it. But no, I don't have a problem with trying to strengthen code of ethics. I have no problem with that.
Some of us on the committee just have some heartburn as to, this is a change, and like Representative Benton Chairman Benton has said, this is other people's money, and we're hearing from people all across the state that we're about to do make a change. And I was under the impression we was going to kind of wait, as being a new member on this, to see how the firefighters fund was going to do before we moved in other directions.
Well, that predates my time as chairman of retirement, so I wasn't here when we did the firefighters. But Jim, you want to?
Thank you, Mr.
All right.
Chairman.
Thank you. Number 23.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Golden, thank you for bringing this to us today. I have a question. Is it not true that the trustees of each of the funds that would be eligible to invest under this code, should it be adopted, would be able to adopt an investment policy that was specific to their fund? So if they so chose, they could have the flexibility to be more restrictive than what this bill allows for.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I'll be happy to repeat it. Any fund or any pension plan that became eligible to invest under these guidelines would still have the ability to adopt a more restrictive investment policy should they so decide.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I have a conflict. I have to go to another meeting, if that's okay with you.
Yes, sir.
You got to go to the Senate and speak over there, right? Okay. We'll have Ms. Kelly come up, if you don't mind, and try to answer some other questions, Jim. Okay? Thank you, sir. And hurry back. Make it quick over there. Okay?
They're third sizes.
Coach, you have a question, sir?
Right, Mr. Chairman. How you? Line item 81, I was concerned about wording here. It says that such terms shall not. Why not read will not? So, line item 81.
Oh,
page 3.
Page 3, line 81, provided that such terms shall not include the teacher's retirement system. I don't know. I guess it's just a wording there. Mr. Attorney, you got anything between will and shall? How do you feel on that?
That's our drafting style. They mean the same thing. Our drafting style says shall not.
Okay. All right. The other question is, now, each year that this fund is invested, you said 5 years. Can there be a year skipped? You have to do it consecutively. Can you skip a year?
It's my understanding, Coach, that if the 5 years is the 5% is the maximum. If they only put in 0.5% 1 year, the next year they can't come back in and put in 1.5. The maximum you could put in is 1% per year, up to 5%. And I'll get them to explain to me if I'm wrong here. But if you put in 0.5% of your fund 1 year, the next year you can't come in and put a 1.5. It may take 8 or 9 years to get to the 5%, depending on what they find they want to
invest in.
Invest in. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. That's right. 1/2 would be, assuming that would be like the 1% for that investment. That's correct.
Yeah. If they only put in 1/2 1 year, they can't put in a 1.5 the next year. They're still limited the next year, so it may take 6, 8, 9 years to put the whole 5% in.
Okay, back to that little hotel in Houston, I believe Enron.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I think I stayed in there in 04. I didn't know that was going to be some problems.
Oh, okay. That's what happened then.
That's what.
All right, anything else, Coach?
Well, most of my questions have been asked that I had heartburns with. I can live with the bill if we are assured that there will be no changes once it goes back to the Senate.
Well, we haven't made any changes over here yet.
If y'all don't make any changes, I'll hold it.
He'll hold it, okay?
All our changes are going to be good.
Yeah, we usually perfect Senate legislation. Yeah. We do that. Thank you. Number 26, did I miss you?
I'm back.
You're back.
Yeah.
He's back.
I know this has been talked about, but would you have an issue with adding that the retirees were notified on lines 173 through 79? Would you have an issue with retirees being added into that?
We have held a discussion with them, and we are more than willing to post it on our website, the report that is given to the committees.
Would you have an issue with us putting it in here?
I mean, if it's something that it comes down and it's the chairman's pleasure, we would be happy to work with him.
Oh, he thought he disappeared. Thank you. When would that be appropriate? Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, I got carried away there. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, would you be open to that amendment to adding that the retirees be notified as well?
There was somebody else down here suggesting that. What line were you talking about, sir?
173 through 79.
Can our legal, David, you working on drafting something there? We will approach. We'll take that as an amendment in a moment. I think that'd be fine.
Thank you, sir.
We'll let our legal counsel work on that change, and we'll see what we can do. And how many copies of this we got? Can you make some copies of that? We have. Okay. While we're working on that, I got one other change we might want to look at. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I just want to confirm, and I support the change, but that would apply to any retirement system, whether it's local or state, that they would have to post on their website similar disclosure.
I believe you would be correct, but let's check with David. Do you?
I think that's valid. I think that all members would be very grateful to know that they would be able to receive.
I think we're going to say either or, make it available one way or the other. Some of these folks, I'm not sure, all of them might have a website that says, the City of Atlanta, they have a website that posts their information. No. Do you know, ma'am?
Tom, would there be some that might prefer?
If I could just, Mr. Chairman, with your
Yes, sir.
leave, if I could just refer you to line 174. This would apply to public retirement systems created by this title other than Chapter 5. And that would include the Georgia Municipal Association's retirement system. So that the thought was you all have a fiduciary responsibility to retirees of the state. And obviously you would want to know this information, and the employees, the retirees would want to know this information as well. But the thought was that we communicate with our retirees in a very different manner, and that while it's important for you all to know how your system is doing and to potentially require website posting for your retirement system, your state's retirement system, the thought was that we would be not subject to having to send paperwork to the governor, et cetera, because we're responsible for our own people. And that was the reason why Chapter 5 was exempted.
Is that a good explanation?
That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you pointing that out, sir. Thank you. Coach, you have a question?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to know, as far as the annual report, what month would that go out?
It says on the third Monday in January of each year, Director of the Public Retirement System shall create a report. Third Monday in January.
Third Monday in January? Where is that at?
It's on line 173.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Mr. Bunder, do you have some language that we might be able to look at as far as an amendment here?
Yes, sir. Before I do that, the question was asked whether this would apply to all the retirement systems covered by the authorized to make these investments, and actually it doesn't. The way it's drafted, it would not apply to the City of Atlanta.
Right. Tom just mentioned that. He told us about that other than Chapter 5.
Well, no, that's his. That's
okay.
This also would not include the county systems like the City of Atlanta. We would need to redraft that if you wanted the large county systems to produce reports as well.
No, I think we need to take care of what we're looking at under our purview here. Their trustees need to take care of that. I think our committee would be satisfied with the ERS reporting. Is that correct? ERS reporting only. Okay.
All right. Then to take care of the other thing on the side of the line, 178 after the preceding year period, to have a use sentence, and such report shall also be posted on the retirement system official website.
Okay. Dave, could you stand up and restate that one more time, just a little bit louder, or come to the mic down here?
I'll just stand here. If you can hear me, on line 178, after the sentence again to the preceding year period, it talks about the report in that sentence. Add a sentence, such report shall also be posted on the retirement system's official website.
Got that?
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Kelly, you have something, ma'am?
No, we support that change.
Yep, y'all be all right with that change?
Yes.
Okay. Number 26, you still blinking? Are we through over there?
Last question, Mr. Chairman. On the third Monday, I'm assuming that we have it says that the report will be issued on the third Monday in January. I'm assuming that we have a December 31st fiscal year. I just want to verify that.
Yeah, well,
We do not. Does that cause any conflicts?
I think it's going to end up being about a quarter in arrears just because the way it's going to fall. So.
But
Do you want to change that date, or do you want to change the reporting date?
We did talk specifically with the Division of Investment Services, and they felt that date still worked with them. Okay. We reviewed the date because I know it's a little bit different in the firefighters' pension.
Theirs is March the 1st.
But they were very satisfied with the January date and did not see a need to change it.
So March, sometime in March, I think it is.
First Monday in March.
First Monday in March, okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, that January report will be as of December 31st. Is that the preceding year, or is?
Yes, I think.
Okay.
Okay.
But I want to check with Division of Investment Services to be sure I can get back to you.
We got a head shaking back here.
If I may speak up, the January date doesn't really work because the private equity managers, the general partners, will not have their data ready. It takes them about 60 days to get all of their partnerships collected, get all the K-1s together, and get all that stuff. They're not going to have reports ready in that time frame.
That would be my only concern because I'm working on year end right now for a client, and we ain't anywhere near done.
You really need like a March 15th date.
All right. With
10Ks and all that.
Do y'all have any heartburn with changing the reporting date on that? Second Monday in
Same as they say, second Monday in January.
second Monday in March.
March.
Make it early.
Second Monday in March.
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay. Somebody make that in terms of a motion in a minute when we get started.
So moved. Second.
Well, all right. I guess moving to second, we changed to second Monday in March. That was quick enough. All in favor, let them say an aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Mr. Bundrick, you got that for us? All right. Well, what we're doing, the motions, the one that he mentioned a while ago, on line 178. Can we go ahead and get a move in a second on that one? Move in a second. This is for adding the reporting requirements for the ERS to the members either on the website or membership reports. We have a move in second. All in favor, let them say an aye. Aye. All right. Any opposed, like sign. I've got one memo that I put out on your desk that we had looked at something about on line 104. It says after the first period with the words where it says with, affiliated with the insurer. This is some of the protections I think that had been brought up about that had been come up in other ways, but the concern in the other methods that have been brought up was that if we as individuals or retirees or whatever had funds invested in mutual funds or in some other Bairds or whatever these other companies are that do investments, we might not know that we would have funds invested in a company that may be trying to do business with the ERS or one of these alternative investments, and it kind of got a little sticky point there. But the proposal we have here would be at the end of 104, where it says with the issuer. At the time of the initial investment, such investors shall not include any trustees of the eligible large retirement systems making the investment and any public official within the meaning of subparagraph 9 of Code Section 451020. And what that code section specifies is public official means any person elected to a state office and means any person appointed to a state office wherein conduct wherein the conduct of such office the person so appointed has administrative and discretionary authority to receive and expend public funds and to perform certain functions concerning the public which are assigned to him by law. That's the definition of public official that would be added into this statute. Does that have any feeling with the committee? Y'all look at this. Am I talking crazy here? Y'all? I'm getting no reaction at all, y'all.
I was just reading to see how it fit with the rest of it.
Looks good, Hal. Looks good.
Does that satisfy some of the feelings of the that y'all had about public officials having a say-so in the investments, is my question.
Mr. Chairman, it's not just about public officials, but it's friends of public officials that could be an interesting dilemma for us.
Well, I think we got that. It could be anything out here. I mean, it could
really
be anything.
could.
I mean, we've got the other protections in here where it's going to have to be 4 different funds invest in the thing. It's not just going to be one out. I'm not sure I've got enough friends out here that I would have people in 4 different funds with eligible to go back here. I may not have any friends in this room right now. I don't know. But I can assure you I don't have 4 friends.
I got a long email list that's not friendly with you right now.
Well, I never got those emails. I was going to mention that. Out of all these thousands of people with Georgia State Retirees, I think I got 5 emails is all I got. So they must not like me to start with, but that's all right. Keep them off my list. Back to this amendment here. What do y'all think on that? Can I get?
Yeah, second.
Got a move in a second to add that on there. Jimmy, y'all all right with that? You and Kelly, author of the bill. What do you think? Okay. All right. We got a move in a second to add this at the. Yes, ma'am. Oh, legal counsel. Yes, sir.
And with that motion I make, we allow legislative council the liberty to change the and to an or.
Now, okay. At the time of the initial investment, such investors shall not include any trustee making the investment in, or any public official. Is that what you're saying? Okay. Extract after investment, we're going to take that and out and put or any public official within the meaning of subparagraph. Jimmy,
motion to amend the motion.
Got a motion to amend the motion. Second. All in favor of amending the motion? Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Are y'all all right with the and to an or? Okay. Don't want to trip you up here. All right. Now the original. We're back on the motion. All in favor of the. Have we voted on this? The motion to add this line in there.
Motion to amendment as amended.
Motion to amend as amended. Second. All in favor, let me say an aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. All right. We're back to the main question now. Any other changes? Anything else? I'm looking for a motion here.
Move to pass.
Second.
All right. We got a move. Second. All in favor, let them be raising your hand. Any opposed, likes? Okay. Well, let's get our count here.
You get positive now?
We're getting 4s. We're getting all the 4s right now.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I missed out on a lot of the changes here. Now, I don't know if I'm voting for or against what.
Well, what do you want to know? What do you want to know, my brother?
I don't know what's been changed.
All right, you want to restate the changes?
I think the head count is going to be sufficient. And let me abstain.
All right, whichever you feel like. If you don't feel comfortable with it, all in favor, let it know by saying, raising your hand again. All in favor, raise your hand. Anybody got a count? 8. Any opposed, like sign. 8-2. All right. Well, abstention is basically a no vote there, but that's all right. Bill is passed. We will get these changes put in there. Thank you, members of the committee. Appreciate you being here. Go to your next meetings. Rules is at 1 o'clock. If you got bills and rules, go to rules. Thank everybody being here.